There is a version of you that is emerging right now that you have not fully seen yet, a version that has been forming in the deep places, in the quiet seasons, in the fire that you survived and the silence that you carried and the faith that you held on to when holding on made no logical sense. And what is emerging from all of that is so far beyond what the people around you expected, so far beyond what even you dared to believe was possible for your life, that when heaven looks at what you are becoming, even those who dwell in the presence of God are amazed, not because God did not know, He always knew, but because the beauty of watching a chosen one become what they were always designed to be is something that moves even heaven. Stay right here, because what God is about to show you about who you are becoming is going to change everything about how you carry yourself from this moment forward. I am speaking to you directly right now, the chosen one who has been in the middle of a becoming that they could not always see clearly from the inside. Because becoming is one of those things that is most visible from the outside and least visible from the position of the person it is happening to. You have been too close to it, too inside it, too occupied with the daily work of surviving and pressing and holding on and getting up again to stand back far enough to see the shape of what God has been forming in you through all of it. You have seen the pieces, the individual moments of growth, the specific lessons learned from specific painful experiences, the gradual shift in how you respond to things that once leveled you. You have seen those pieces, but the full picture, the complete image of who you are becoming, as all of those pieces are assembled by the hand of God into something coherent and extraordinary and entirely unlike anything the world has seen before in quite this specific combination, that full picture you have not yet fully seen, and God wants to show it to you today. Not because you need to know in order for the becoming to continue, it is already continuing regardless, but because knowing, seeing even a glimpse of what He is assembling in you, changes how you carry yourself through the remaining process. It changes your relationship with the hard days. It changes your capacity to receive what He is sending. It changes the way you see your own story, and those changes matter for what is still ahead. Type Amen. If you know that something significant has been forming in you, but you have not yet been able to see the full picture of what it is. Let me start by telling you who you are becoming in your character, because the most important dimensions of what God is building in you are not the ones that will be most visible to the world. The most important ones are the interior ones, the qualities that form in the deep place that no one sees directly, but that everyone feels when they are in your presence. The first character quality that is emerging in you is a settled authority that does not need external permission to exist. There was a version of you that required the agreement of the room to feel confident in what you carried. That needed someone to confirm the validity of your gift before you would fully release it. That held back the fullness of your contribution until enough encouragement had accumulated to make stepping forward feel safe. That version is being replaced by someone who knows what they carry at a level that is not dependent on anyone else's recognition of it. Someone who can walk into a room that does not yet understand what they bring and remain fully themselves without shrinking to match the room's current capacity for understanding. This authority is not arrogance. It does not announce itself with volume or demand. It simply is. It occupies space with a quiet certainty that does not ask for permission and does not apologize for its presence. Type authority if you can feel this settled, knowing beginning to form in you even as you listen to these words. The second character quality is a love that has been through the fire and come out without bitterness, because one of the greatest tests of a chosen one's character is what happens to their love after it has been betrayed, after it has been given generously and returned carelessly, after it has been used and manipulated and taken for granted. What happens to love after that experience is one of the most significant determiners of who a person becomes. The love that survives betrayal without becoming guarded and calculating and permanently defensive is a rare and extraordinary thing. It is not naive. It does not forget what happened or pretend the wounds were not real, but it refuses to allow what happened to it to determine what it does next. It keeps choosing to love not because the past justified that choice, but because love is what it is made of, and what it is made of cannot be changed by what it goes through. You are becoming someone with this kind of love. Someone whose capacity to love genuinely has not been destroyed by everything that tried to destroy it. And this version of love, the love that survived the fire, is more powerful than the untested version you began with. It carries a depth and a credibility and a weight that only comes from having been through something and chosen love anyway. And it is going to reach people and heal people and call people back to themselves in ways that the untested version of love simply could not. Type love that survived if you recognize that your capacity to love genuinely has not been destroyed by what tried to destroy it. The third character quality is wisdom that operates at a level of discernment that most people spend their entire lives and never access. You have been through things that opened in you a way of seeing that cannot be learned from any external source. You see through performances in a way that you could not before. You recognize manipulation before it has fully assembled itself. You feel the quality of a person's character in the space between what they say and how they say it. You know the difference between genuine peace and managed anxiety, between real confidence and performed certainty, between love that wants to give and love that wants to consume. This discernment is not suspicion, it is sight. It is the specific gift of someone who has been tested at the level you have been tested and who learned through the testing to see clearly what most people cannot see at all. Take a moment and like this video, because someone who needs to understand who they are becoming needs to find this message through your support. Type I see clearly if you know that you have developed a level of discernment that was not available to you before the seasons you have been through. Now let me tell you who you are becoming in your spirit. Because the interior spiritual formation that God has been doing in you through everything you have experienced is the dimension of your becoming that heaven is most amazed by. Not because spiritual formation is unusual, God forms all his chosen ones, but because the specific quality of what he has formed in you through the specific path of your specific journey is something that has a particular beauty that is unique to the combination of what you were given and what you went through and how you responded to both. What is forming in your spirit first and most significantly is an unshakable faith, not the faith that has never been tested. That kind of faith, while it is a beginning, is fragile in a way that it does not know it is fragile because it has never been pressed to the place where fragility reveals itself. Your faith has been pressed. It has been tested at the level where most faith shows its cracks. And what was revealed in your testing was not the absence of faith, but the presence of something deeper than feeling or emotion or favorable circumstances. A root that went down into the bedrock of who God is, rather than into the shifting soil of what your life looked like in any given moment. That root held when everything above ground was being stripped away, and what holds under that kind of pressure becomes unshakable, not because it was always unshakable, but because it was tested to the level where the shakeability was removed and what remained was real. Type unshakable if you know that your faith has been tested at a level that removed everything that was not real and left something that cannot be moved. What is forming in your spirit second is a peace that operates independent of circumstances. You have tasted this peace already. In moments during the hardest seasons, where the circumstances gave no logical basis for peace but peace arrived anyway, where the situation was objectively difficult and the future was genuinely uncertain, and yet something settled in you that said it is going to be all right, in a voice that your logic could not fully explain. That peace is not a feeling that comes and goes. It is becoming a foundation, a baseline orientation of your spirit toward the reality that God is in control of everything that concerns you, and that his control is not threatened by anything that appears threatening in the natural world. This peace is going to be one of the most visible and most impactful things about who you are becoming, because people who are surrounded by anxiety and uncertainty and fear can feel in your presence the quality of someone who is not shaken by what is shaking everyone else. And what they feel draws them toward you, toward the source of what you carry, toward the God who is producing it in you. Type peace beyond understanding if you receive the truth that God is establishing in you a peace that is becoming a permanent foundation rather than an occasional experience. Let me tell you what heaven sees when it looks at who you are becoming. Because I said at the beginning that even heaven is amazed, And I want you to understand what that amazement consists of, so that you can receive it not as flattery, but as the genuine, specific, accurate perception of beings who can see what God is doing without the limitation of the natural perspective. Heaven sees a chosen one who was given a specific assignment before they were born, and who, through everything that has happened in their life, through every detour and every fire and every season of doubt, and every moment of faithful endurance, has been moving toward that assignment without always knowing it. Every experience, even the ones that felt furthest from purpose, has been contributing material to the person who is capable of carrying that assignment. And what heaven sees is that the person who is emerging right now is very close to the fullness of who they need to be to step into what was always designed for them. The becoming is nearly complete, not in the sense that growth stops, but in the sense that the fundamental architecture of who you are designed to be is now mostly assembled. The foundation is solid, the character is formed, the faith is proven, the love is refined, the discernment is active, and the person standing in that architecture is ready for a level of assignment and impact and provision that the earlier versions of them were not yet equipped to carry. That is what heaven is amazed by, not that you exist, but that what God designed you to be is so close to being fully expressed, and the closeness of the full expression is producing in the spirit realm the atmosphere of anticipation that precedes something significant, something that changes not just your life, but the lives of everyone your life is designed to touch. Stay with me in part 2, because God is going to tell you specifically who you are becoming in your relationships, in your purpose, in your impact on the world around you. And He is going to tell you what to do with the knowledge of what you are becoming, so that the becoming accelerates into the full expression of everything He designed you to be. Welcome back, chosen one. In part 1, God showed you who you are becoming in your character and in your spirit. The settled authority, the love that survived the fire, the discernment that sees clearly, the unshakable faith, the peace that is becoming a foundation. In part 2, He is going to show you who you are becoming in your relationships and in your purpose and your impact. And He is going to give you something practical to carry forward, a way of engaging with the becoming that accelerates it into its full expression. Stay open, stay present. What God wants to show you in this part is the part that is going to make the most immediate difference in how you move through the next days and weeks and months of your life. Type open if you are fully present and ready to receive everything in part 2.
Let me start with who you are becoming in your relationships, because the transformation that God has been doing in your interior is producing a version of you that relates to people in a fundamentally different way from the version that existed before the seasons of formation. And this difference is going to be most visible and most impactful in how your relationships work in this new season. The first shift in your relational becoming is this. You are becoming someone who attracts at the level you have been refined to. Before the formation process, your relationships were often characterized by a gap between what you were genuinely offering and what the other person had the capacity to receive and reciprocate. You were giving from a depth that the relationships around you could not always match.
And the gap between the depth of your offering and the depth of the reception produced a specific kind of relational loneliness that was particularly painful because it existed inside relationship that were technically present. You were not alone, but you were not fully met. That gap is closing, not because you are becoming less deep, but because the depth you carry is now attracting people who have their own depth, people who have been through their own formation, who have their own proven faith and refined love and hard-won wisdom, who can meet you in the place where you actually live, rather than in the shallower place where most of your previous relationships were able to reach. The relationships that are coming in this season are going to feel different from the ones that have defined your relational life up to this point, more genuinely mutual, more deeply honest, more capable of both giving and receiving at the level that you have always been operating at. And the experience of being truly met in a relationship, possibly for the first time at this level, is going to be one of the most healing experiences of your life. Type met if you are ready to step into the season of relationships that can actually meet you at the depth you carry. The second relational shift is this. You are becoming someone who leads in relationship without trying to lead, not the formal leadership of position or authority, The organic leadership of someone who has been through enough and seen enough and developed enough genuine wisdom that when they speak in the context of relationship, people listen in a different way. There is a quality to what you say in this new season that is going to carry weight that it did not carry before. Not because you have become more impressive or more articulate, because what you say now comes from a place of genuine, proven, experiential truth. And genuine, proven, experiential truth lands differently than advice that has not been tested by the person giving it. The people in your life are going to begin coming to you in this season for the kind of conversation that matters. The conversations where someone needs not just information, but the kind of presence that helps them find their own clarity. And you are going to be able to offer that because of everything that was formed in you through your seasons of becoming. Type lead by being if you receive the truth that your formed character is going to influence and guide others simply through the quality of your presence and your speech. Now let me tell you who you are becoming in your purpose. Because purpose is not just an assignment that arrives externally and you accept and execute. Purpose is something that grows from the inside out. It is the intersection of who God made you to be with what the world around you most needs. And both sides of that intersection have been developing through everything you have experienced. What God made you to be has been refined and clarified and deepened through the formation process. And what the world most needs has been made increasingly visible to you through your own experiences of needing it and not always finding it in the places you looked. You now understand from the inside what certain people need because you have been that person who needed it. You know what it feels like to be in the dark because you have been in the dark. You know what it feels like to need a word that speaks specifically to your situation because you have needed that word. And that knowing, that interior knowledge of what the searching heart and the struggling spirit most need is one of the primary qualifications for the purpose you are stepping into. The purpose that is coming clear for you in this season is not going to feel like a new direction that is foreign to who you are. It is going to feel like recognition, like the thing that makes sense of everything that came before it, like you are finally stepping into the thing that all the other things were preparing you for. And when that recognition arrives, when the purpose comes into focus, your response is not going to be, "Am I qualified for this?" It is going to be, "I have been being prepared for this my whole life." That recognition is the signature of a God-designed purpose meeting a God-prepared vessel. Type recognition if you receive the truth that your purpose is going to feel like coming home rather than entering new territory. Let me tell you specifically about the impact you are becoming capable of. Because impact in the life of a chosen one is not measured by the size of the platform or the number of people reached or the metrics that the world uses to quantify influence. It is measured by the depth of the transformation that occurs in the specific lives that God places in your path. And the depth of transformation that a person can facilitate in others is directly proportional to the depth of transformation that has occurred in them. You are becoming someone whose impact goes deep, who does not simply inform but transforms, who does not simply encourage but equips, who does not simply comfort but rebuilds. The people who encounter you in this new season are going to walk away from that encounter, different in a way that they cannot always immediately articulate, but that they will feel in the ongoing quality of their lives long after the moment of contact has passed. This depth of impact is the direct result of the depth of your becoming. God has been forming you at this level of depth specifically because the assignment He has for you requires someone who can produce this kind of impact. He does not over-prepare. Every dimension of what He has formed in you corresponds to a dimension of what He is going to use you to do. The authority is for the rooms He is going to put you in. The love is for the people He is going to send to you. The discernment is for the situations He is going to navigate you through. The peace is for the storms He is going to send you into on behalf of others. All of it fits, all of it serves a purpose, and all of it is about to be fully activated. Type deep impact if you receive the truth that God has been forming you at this level of depth, specifically because the impact He has designed you for requires everything He has built in you. Now I want to give you something practical to carry forward, because knowing who you are becoming is powerful. But there is a way of engaging with that knowledge that accelerates the becoming, and a way of engaging with it that inadvertently slows it. I want to give you the accelerating way. The first practice is this: begin to act from who you are becoming, rather than from who you have been. This sounds simple, but it is one of the most transformative choices a person can make. Most people act from the historical version of themselves, from the identity that was established in past seasons by past experiences. They make decisions that are consistent with who they have been, even when the formation process has already made them into someone different. The identity lags behind the transformation, and the lag creates a gap between who you actually are now and how you are actually moving through the world. Closing that gap requires the conscious choice to act from the new version, to make decisions from the settled authority rather than the old insecurity, to speak from the wisdom rather than the fear, to give from the refined love rather than the self-protective guardedness. Every time you make that choice, the new identity becomes more established, and the old one becomes less operative. Type act from who I am becoming if you are committing to closing the gap between who God has formed you to be and how you are moving through the world. The second practice is to speak what is true about who you are becoming, rather than what is familiar from who you have been. The language you use about yourself is not just descriptive. It is participatory. It contributes to the formation of the identity it describes. When you speak from the old identity, the old patterns, the old limitations, you reinforce them even when the transformation has already moved beyond them. And when you speak from the new identity, from the authority and the wisdom and the love and the faith that God has formed in you, you participate in establishing that identity as the operating reality of your life. This is not positive thinking in the shallow sense. It is the biblical practice of speaking what God says about you, rather than what your history says about you. And it has a power that the consistent practice of it makes increasingly visible. Type I speak who I am becoming if you are committing to aligning your language about yourself with what God has formed in you, rather than with what your history has established. The third practice is gratitude for the process. And I want to be specific about what I mean, because gratitude for a process that included real pain is not the same as pretending the pain was not real. Gratitude for the process is the mature recognition that everything that went into the forming of who you are becoming was necessary, not pleasant, not what you would have chosen if you had been writing the script, but necessary. And the recognition of necessity produces a quality of peace with the past that frees you from the weight of carrying what should have already been released. When you can look back at the hardest seasons of your formation and say genuinely that what was formed in you through those seasons was worth what they cost, you are released from the bitterness and the grief and the why that those seasons can leave behind if they are not fully processed. And that release creates an interior freedom that is one of the most important conditions for the full expression of who you are becoming. Type grateful for the process if you are choosing to receive the hard seasons as necessary parts of the formation of something extraordinary. Let me close with what God specifically wants to say to you in this moment. Not generally, specifically. To the version of you that is watching this message right now, with everything you have been through, and everything you are still carrying, and everything you are hoping for, and everything you are afraid to hope for, He sees you. He sees the specific version of you that exists right now in this moment. He sees the formed character that has been produced by everything you survived. He sees the refined love that chose to keep being love, even when love was not returned. He sees the proven faith that held on in the dark. He sees the wisdom that was bought at a real price. He sees the peace that has been building in your foundation. He sees the discernment that has developed through the testing. He sees all of it. And what he sees when he looks at the full picture of who you are becoming is something that is moving even to him, not because he is surprised by it. He designed it. But because there is something specific about the beauty of a chosen one who has been through what you have been through and who has come out of it, becoming what you are,